What's up, y'all? This is the Waterproof MC, chilling with my brother, Mikey T, the movie star. Lights, camera, rhythm.
Today, I have a very special guest. I make it my business to find artists with a different type of pen game. And today's guest pen game is different. He was around when lyrics actually mattered. He was around when you couldn't have whack lyrics. Ras Kass, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell me about how life was for you growing up in Carson, California?
Well, let me make put an asterisk there. So I've always had, as far as I can remember, we always lived in Carson, but I grew up in Watts. I went to school there, I socialized there up until the middle of the 7th grade, 8th grade. So yeah. Watts is Watts. Watts riots is is infamous for the Watts riots. It's considered the east side of LA. It's the ghetto. It's the rough part of LA is considered. So I had a balance. I was able to, I lived in Watts, but then my parents worked and they would pick us up after work around 5 p.m. and then we go to Carson, and it's a suburb. Ironically enough, going to school in Watts was less traumatic for me than starting to go to middle school in Carson, which Carson was middle class, very, very mixed. It was about a 20% white, 20% black, 20% Mexican. I think combined, both families made over $100,000, which meant a lot back then. You know what I'm saying? 2-parent homes, and just in general, combined incomes of over $100,000. A lot of 2-story houses. So we were kind of considered the rich kids of the area, the suburb. But kids are assholes. So I was, like I said, I was more traumatized going to 8th grade. Like, well, these fucking kids are fucking insane. Like, running through, pissing in the showers. Just, I'm like, who the fuck raises these weird fucking kids? So I didn't have that type of shit didn't fly in Watts. You know what I'm saying? I was like, we're more civilized than because my father was all, he didn't like the ghetto at the time, Watts and all that. He wanted his kids to go to school in the burbs, and then the burbs was a fucking ridiculous. Little assholes were stranger than any more drugs than I had seen. I was like, these niggas is worse. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I had to ask you about the area because when you say Compton, everybody knows Compton. When you say Beverly Hills, everyone knows about it. Or Slauson, we heard about it. But Carson, it's like we don't know. We don't hear about that spot much here on the East Coast. So I'm glad you could explain that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I explained it pretty good on the first couple of albums. Carson is literally the sister city of Compton. It's next to Compton. You can't get from Compton. You have to go through Carson to get to Long Beach. We're the city north of Long Beach, southwest of Compton. That's what Carson is. It's just when Dr. Dre found Snoop, they said fuck us. They just jumped right over us and promoted, which they should. I'm not mad. So we got left out of the shout outs.
Another thing I want to ask you, the West Coast is heavily gang affiliated, Blood and Crips banging on wax. Did you come out during that time, when everyone was banging on wax?
When that album came out?
Yeah.
I was a kid. I was what we call a non-factor. I didn't matter. I was 8, 9, 10. so we call that being a non-factor. Like you didn't hit puberty. You weren't in the streets. You wasn't outside. So yeah, but I remember it. It was legendary. I grew up, in the 80s, late 80s, like, it was active. Like gangbanging was at an all-time high. So it was going down when all that stuff. Pretty much like out of everybody on those banging on wax out on that album, I believe like 95% of them are dead. Long time ago died. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they was gangbanging. It was just crazy. Yeah, man. I was I don't even think I was able to buy a tape back at that point. Somebody else had it. You just hear it. I didn't even really process what was happening when that record came out, really. Yeah.
Can you tell me about when you first started rapping? You know, like what was it made you want to first get involved, you know, in music and actually put your words on tape?
Good question. I was a moderate fan, a consumer. I would say a moderate consumer. Like music was something I enjoyed, but I wasn't like I gotta have music. I just wasn't that kind of person growing up. But I think at some point around hearing "You Must Learn," KRS-One, hearing and maybe kind of work backwards. I had heard everything else, you know, I liked it all, but KRS-One was the first person that kind of, for me, and maybe where I was at as a person, I was already kind of questioning what I was being taught in school, questioning religion. I was self-actualizing early. And so things that I was researching, I never heard anybody say that in raps about you know, who invented the saddle. You know, black person created the air conditioning, created the stoplight. Like I didn't even learn that in high school. I was having to go get alternative information to even learn that. So to hear somebody in a rap song, I never heard nobody in no jazz song. I never heard that in no rock and roll song. I never heard that in a fucking nothing. Never heard no form of music where somebody gave me historical information, factual, that not even my high school, or not wasn't even in high school, whatever, junior high, whatever the fuck I was in, middle school, or maybe I was in high school. I just had never heard of somebody say that shit. And I was just like, this is different. And I always, wanted to, we all rap. Everybody sits around. You listen to your favorite songs. You repeat after them. You might freestyle with your friends. You're drinking. You're smoking. Seriously thinking like, hey, this is something I kind of want to try to do and record something. It probably was that. The catalyst would probably be KRS-One.
So who was it that told you you're nice? You know what I mean? Who actually said that to you? In other words, how old were you when you realized that you were talented?
I was first person that told me I was nice and that made a difference in my life. Because most of my friends didn't understand. I used, my vocabulary was just bigger than most of my friends. Just because my parents talk how they talk. I don't know. I just picked it up from them. But Battle Cat. So I was probably 15 acting like I was 17 when I met Battle Cat, DJ Battle Cat, that produces for Snoop Dogg and, obviously legendary Battle Cat. So he discovered me and my friend Bird at about 15-ish. And he pulled us under his wing. He had an artist and that got a record deal. His name was Box. And they kind of let us be the dancers while helping us advance. Like Bird was a producer and I was a rapper, and they were helping us get our music together while we were like the little dancers on the side. So it was cool as fuck. He looked out. Him and Box. Salute to Box. Another asterisk. First person who told me I was dope was my friend, and we were playing dominoes. Probably 4 or 5 of us playing dominoes. And no, because Battle Cat had to hear it first. The second person that told me I was dope with my own songs was my friend. He didn't know it was me. I just played the demo that I made with Battle Cat and Wino, who produced all the Coolio stuff. And he heard my demo, and Curtis from Patchwork Studios in Atlanta. So Kurt was my friend, and then I played him the 4 or 5 songs I had done with Battle Cat and Wino, and he's like, "You dope." He didn't know it was me at first. He's like, "Who the fuck is this?" And I was like, it's me. And he's like, yo, this is the dopest rapper. It was awesome. So, yeah. I'm sorry. Keep going.
So starting to rap, like, did you get any backlash because of the fact that your dad was a cop?
Nah. Mm-mm. Nobody gave a fuck about that. Nah. I got backlash because people didn't understand what I was saying. Like my biggest complaint from my friends was, you use them big words and we don't know what you're saying in the rap. What the fucking amalgamation means? What the fuck is that word? I got dumb friends. So that was that. So I thought I was whack pretty much until hearing KRS One have this extensive vocabulary and talk about history, because people even now, like, rap got dumber. People don't use they don't articulate. They talk about the same shit. It's very rudimentary. I believe that, like, a newspaper is written for like a fifth grade vocabulary, and most people can't even read a newspaper. Most people can't read at this point. So just as people are dumb. I'm saying, I hate to say it, but it's true.
Like, how did you know what you wanted to rap about? You spoke about cat peelers, you speak about Jedis and hobbits and vampires, the O.J. Simpson case, Jeffrey Dahmer, religion.
I talk about myself. Those are part of my personality. I love sci-fi. I'm a fucking nerd. I love history. I love language. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the etymology of words. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in Marvel and DC. I'm interested in, Star Wars, as, maybe a little bit, more than I am Star Trek. You know what I'm saying? I'm interested in women. I'm interested in jewelry. I'm interested in going to clubs. I'm interested in my family. I'm interested in socio-political shit. I talk about who I am, as opposed. That's why I don't do a lot of, gangbang rapping. I was never a gang member. I mean, my friends, I don't do a lot of drug dealing in my rap, because I didn't drug deal. I talk about my friends who did. I talk about me drinking, or my homies do what they do. We all had to do shit. In life as men, we have to fight. Sometimes we get beyond fights. Shit happens in life as men in the streets of America. But yeah, I mean, my experiences inform my writing. Whereas I think a lot of people just write what they think people want to hear, because they're not true. They're just making shit to sell to people. And I understand that business model. It's more of a prostitute than an artist. You understand what I'm saying? A prostitute is here to sell you a service, give you some pussy for some money. Doesn't have to love you, like you, respect you, think you even smell good or anything. It's just a service. I'm not really here to do a service. I was here to be an artist and express myself, and kind of, hopefully, again, to reach people where if they can relate to one side, fine. If they can relate to cat pilling, if they can relate to, growing up in Watts, if they can relate to being in the burbs, if they can relate to fucking being a sci-fi nerd, especially black kids, that's, maybe 20 something years ago, not everybody was always okay with revealing they had a nerdy side. Everybody had to be tough. You know what I'm saying? Especially in rap, I wore V-neck sweaters on purpose and sweater vests. I did that on purpose because I'm from LA. Didn't want to wear a big fucking Raiders jacket and a fucking black beanie, because I didn't dress like that in real life. Why the fuck would I dress like that to sell a record? I wanted to show people, like, yeah, we exist in LA. I walk down the street and I wear V-neck sweaters and white V-neck t-shirts, and before it was popular, and then we exist in LA, and ain't nobody chasing me home. I do what the fuck I want to do, because we exist, and I don't want to sell a stereotype. I wanted to sell truth, and that's the difference.
Can you tell me about the science behind your name? I want you to explain it, because your name has a deep meaning and I like it. It sounds good as well, but when you actually find out what the meaning of it is, you're like, oh. So I want you to explain the meaning of your name.
Well, cool. I'm going to preface it. I'll try to make a long story short. Most of your biblical names, John, Mary, Joseph, whatever, they're Europeanized versions of Hebrew and Aramaic, not Arabic, but Arabic And the closest people that kind of speak Aramaic would be like Ethiopians and whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's the closer rooted language. And so there are no J's in Hebrew. There are no J's in Aramaic. So Europeanized, you got John. It would be more like a Jan, a Y for one. So when I was trying to find a name, I came across there was like a Black History Month, and there was a poster, and just had all these different people, Shaka Zulu and Mansa Musa, and just different people that did different things, whether it was in the antiquity in Africa or somebody contemporary that accomplished something here, Martin Luther King or something. One of the people that I came across was a guy named Ras Kass. So when I was reading it, it's Raskass. I kept reading it. He was a prince of Ethiopia who was warring for a part of Ethiopia called Shoa. Long story short, Ras Kass, when I investigated a little bit more, he was John IV. And then Ras became his title, Ras Kass. He became that guy. And so for me, I'm John IV too. My great grandfather was John Austin. So for me, I felt like I wanted a name that meant something to my journey as a Black American man, but also knowing the misrenaming of taking Europeanized names and trying to have something that was closer to my heritage. And so that I thought it was fitting to be John IV, Jan, no J's. So I became Ras Kass, and then my son, who my firstborn son, I made his name is Ras. So in our, as far as we're concerned, he's the fifth. So he's Ras Austin. We're changing once again. For those that didn't catch the first part, John is a Europeanized version of an African name, of a Hebrew, of an Ethiopian, of a Jan. It would be Jan, no J's in Hebrew. So I wanted, as those things were modified for Europeans, I'm modifying it back as an African.
So you made your debut appearance on a track produced by DJ Battlecat, and he was putting down that West Coast sound. It was real organic. How did you get lined up with such a good producer so early on?
Oh yeah, just going back to it, he discovered me when you asked me the first person that told me I was dope. It was him.
He actually discovered you. That's crazy to get put on by DJ Battlecat.
Yeah, I was 15, about 15, acting like I was 17. So yeah, Cat.
Anything you could share with us about DJ Battlecat and your relationship, how he pushed you further at that young age?
Yeah, man. Me and of my friend, and his name was Bird, we would make these tapes. I had a turntable, he had a mixer with a sampler on it. And we would just diss each other. We pulled all our records together, and then we would go in and like spend an hour a piece and make these tapes to battle each other. And one of the tapes, this one particular time, came out really good. We liked it. It was really just funny shit. We would diss each other, like a diss battle albums that we would make. And anyway, when Cat was dating Bird's older sister, and Bird had the gumption to give him the tape. And, this dude was way older than us and successful and on the radio station he was already the man. The fact that he even took the time to listen to a tape from fucking some 15, 16-year-olds just shows, he had a good heart. Because, I wouldn't have listened to those stupid fucking kids. And it wasn't polished. It was just a bull. Like, it was just us in a garage. And then he came out, like one day he pulled up, like not too long after Bird had given him the tape, which I didn't even know initially Bird gave him the tape. I probably would have talked him out of it, to be perfectly honest, because I wouldn't have wanted to get dissed. But he came up to us. He was in the house, and we were outside doing some kid shit, whatever, probably talking shit or, whatever. Anyway, he came out, and he just was like, you are dope at beats. He pointed to Bird, and then he pointed to me. He's like, you can rap. And then he started taking us to the studio, man. And, he fucked with us and helped us develop and started producing for me. And then me, because I got such a weird idea of kind of what I like, because I'm a kid that liked Duran. So I'm always trying to sample weird shit. It was not, the normal status quo West Coast shit. And then even then it was a little more East Coast, hip, because I Gangstar and KRS-One is my favorite rapper. So my perception of what I wanted to rap over was a little bit different than most of, I would just say what was out in mainstream from the West Coast at the time. And for him to even to want me to develop myself and find who I was on a mic and to spend that time, because I didn't have no money. You know what I'm saying? He was investing his time, money, and energy into us. And a lot of people won't do that. And I always say that, that's part of what keeps me, humbles me and makes me want to help other people, because I'm only the results of people that gave a fuck. You know what I'm saying? And if we realize that we could all do that for each other, we'd be in a better world. And so I'm very grateful to Battle Cat for seeing something in me. Wino the same way, because from there I started working with Wino, still a kid. And Wino was about 16 by then. And they saw in me what I didn't even see in myself and allowed me to develop and become. And they were older than me, and maybe they were 19 or 20. And seeing that if I was 20, I'd probably be thinking, this kid, fuck this kid. He's running all over the place, getting in trouble. They never gave up on me, and I'm really grateful to them. And I always try to pay that forward. So that's what I say about Cat. Cat's just he really cares about the art, and it makes him willing to invest in people that may not have money. He invests in talent, and I can say that, like, I felt like I've seen that in like Dr. Dre. Like, I've seen him like just invest in people that he doesn't have to. He really loves the culture. He loves hip hop, and if he thinks somebody's dope, he's willing to give them a shot and help them develop themselves, and that's cool, man. That's honorable.
So Nas and Lauryn Hill are running around doing "If I Ruled the World." I gotta ask, how did you get on a song with two legendary artists? I'm talking about Wake Up Show '94. How did you end up with those two artists?
Again, that's people that giving a fuck about you. So by then, I have a demo out and like a vinyl maybe, and I'm going to the Wake Up Show on a consistent basis. They had moved down from the Bay to Los Angeles, Sway Tech, and I developed a reputation for killing rappers. That's kind of what that's what I did. I killed MCs, not just West Coast MCs. I went there to kill MCs. So if somebody from New York was there, I went there to kill them. And so they honestly, it's the truth. You young, you hungry, you want yours. And I felt like I was prepared, and I wanted to, and I felt like we had an unfair bad reputation as not being good rappers on the West, and I was there to prove that we could rap good, and not just for a West Coast rapper, that I can beat your East Coast rapper. I don't care about that. And so by that point, I had got on with quite a few, soon to be legendary, MCs, period, ODBs and, KRS-Ones and so-and-sos. I had rapped with whoever they brought, OC, like whoever got on that show and I was in town, they called me and I would go get busy. And so when they were ready to do an anthem, which was crazy and super, like, that showcase, that's an opportunity. They had Lauryn Hill, they had Nas, and they had Pharoah Monch. They had Organized Confusion, and Pharaoh's one of the greatest underrated. Also, he's one of the illest MCs ever. Big fan, always was a big fan. Now I get to consider him a brother, but to put me in that, it was sink or swim, and I just was. I rose to the occasion. I definitely felt confident once they, because I didn't get to hear Nas's stuff. They was just like Nas doing his, It was just a hook at the time when they gave it to me. Well, I didn't give it to me. I had to go to the studio. They played it, and then I had to write my rhyme and record it. And maybe Pharaoh was on there, maybe Organized Confusion. I'm not sure, but that was crazy. And that's the thing about getting the opportunity. If you get the opportunity and you fumble on the 1 yard line, that's nobody will remember. But if you get the opportunity and you fucking run it back 100 yards, that shit becomes a highlight. So for me, it was a blessing because I know I didn't drop the ball on that. But they gave me that opportunity, Swan Tech. Out of all the other MCs that were, paying dues and some more successful than others, they were like, you represent West Coast hip hop. We need you to step it up, get busy, and I feel good.
Yeah, that's crazy to get, put on a track with Nas on. Did the two of you ever get to meet?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Many a times. We had some very interesting conversations. I actually saw Nas the day he dropped Ether. So that was one of my highlights of just being a fly on the wall in hip hop. I was in New York, D&D, that's closed now. But yeah, I hung with Nas for hours the day he dropped Ether. Him, and Premier at D&D. So that shit's crazy. Yeah, but yeah, I've seen him quite a few times. Talked to him. We've actually discussed doing a song together. Like one time, he was just like, yo, your record didn't come out, like whatever. And then he was like, yo, we got to do, because Nas is like, yo, he's like real peaceful, like kind of chill. Like, yo, we should do it. So it was really cool. One time he was just like, Nas and Ras, like, yo, that'll be ill. I was like, no, man. I'm like, come on, man, let's do it. So I hope one of these days that we actually do the Nas and Ras. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, what's the real time, version of that looking like? Because right now, I mean, if you know what I'm saying, with all social media, if you drop something, somebody's going to be getting blown up 10 million times. If Nas were to drop Ether and you were with him, just the real time reaction this day and age, like, what is it like back then? Is anybody even, people can't be hearing the song as quickly as they would this day and age?
Well, I watched, which is, watching that record in that time, because it can only happen in that time the way it did. Specifically talking about Ether, I can time it by just phones. I had a 2-way pager back then. That's what I know I had. So I was in town to work with DJ Premier. I woke up that morning. I flew in the night before, whatever. And I had studio at D&D the next day. So in the morning, I woke up and I went to get a haircut in the Lower East Side. So I left Times Square and went down to the Lower East Side in New York, and where I would always go to get a haircut, which was highly Spanish, a lot of Latino brothers. And at the time, they were big Jay-Z fans, period. And as we all are, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have a dog in the race, so I didn't give a fuck. Nas, Jay-Z, Tupac, Biggie, I think they all dope. I didn't want, I'm just a fan of the craft, and I love battles too. So I'm a fan of battles too. If you niggas get into it, prove who the best. But yeah, when I got to the barbershop to get a haircut, there was a discussion and there was a big argument. One barber is outvoted because he's the only person that's like a diehard Nas fan. Everybody else, the other 4 barbers and people coming in getting their haircuts, are more leaning towards Jay-Z. But then Flex dropped. Apparently, Flex had dropped the mixtape that morning, so everybody was going to the bodegas or wherever and buying. So now there's a physical CD. So the barbershop's just playing the CD now. Dude comes in with the Flex thing and starts just playing Ether. And that becomes the topics of discussion. That, the whole thing, the whole stereotype of the barbershop where people debate, and that's who you're arguing about, who the best rapper or the best basketball player or the best, you know what I'm saying? That's the barbershop discussions. And I watched that. Now, what I didn't know is that Flex had also played the record in the morning and played it 3 or 4 times in a row. And so now we're talking about reaching millions of people all at once, and who go to work in the morning, and then he's playing his record, and everybody went crazy. But so Nas was very strategic with Flex about releasing that record. For one, it got all the, now, yeah, of course you could put it on something on, it could go viral, but that was like how their viral had to be a lot more strategic, and it did exactly what it's supposed to do. So the mixtape came out in the morning. Flex played it in the morning, played it 3-4 times, did the bombs, and honestly, I didn't hear it on the radio, because that probably, if I would have known that as much, or if I would have heard that, I probably would have been able to kind of gauge what was going to happen. Because at the time, the general consensus was, takeover, Nas was done. Like, Jay-Z won. That's kind of what the industry, the streets, everybody's like, what can Nas say after this takeover? And then Ether drops. And I remember being in the barbershop and texting my A&R, who was in Los Angeles at Capitol Records. And I was just like, I don't know, man. I'm really feeling like Nas got a shot, because I'm hearing the song. I'm like, you got to wait till you hear this Ether record, man. This shit is kind of crazy. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, Flex might have been the only person that had the record at that point. You know what I mean? Like, in that morning, 8 a.m. or something. So by 11, maybe their email. Did they have email back then? I don't even know, bro. It took a while to grow. I think it just had to be in New York. You had to have a mixtape. Or you had to be on Hot 97 for it to play. I think that's kind of how it happened, because then, let's say by 4 o'clock, now I'm over at D&D with Premier. He like, yo, you heard the Ether shit? I'm like, bro, I've been at the barbershop. I just came, man. I've been hearing Ether all day. It's crazy. And then, lo and behold, inbox Nas, because he's going to do something. He's working next door to us. So then that got interesting. And then going to that night, I did Golden Child, like the first verse, which I won one take, Willie did, which only a few MCs did that, according to Premier. Like a perfect take. And that was Biggie and Nas. So I was only the third person to ever do a perfect one take verse on a Premier record. Everybody else is lying. Now, I don't know since then, but at that point, the only people to ever do a perfect one take verse was Big and Nas, and then Ras. Period. That's one of my claim to fames. But yeah, we went out that night. Well, Preem didn't go out. I went out with my friends, and we happened to run into Dame, Dash, and Jay-Z. I knew Jay was my label mate, so I knew Jay, and I had actually stayed at Jay's house when I was working on Rat Assassination on my second album. So, he's a big brother of mine, and we all went in the club and sat together. And that's why, like, that whole day is one of my, like, one of them great times to be in hip hop and be a fly on the wall, because I got to see it all happen, and the virality, like the viralness of that record and the impact of it, even the effect it had on Nas. And I got to watch the effect it had on Jay, because we were at this very exclusive club. It was going up. I remember, because I've only seen him and met him once. David Justice was sitting next to us at the table next to us, and he had this really hot chick dancing on top of his table. I'll never forget that. And then the DJ played the fucking Ether record with Jay-Z sitting here. And I remember he played it, and the club went up. It got popping. Not like, boo, and they know Jay's here. So it was one of them, he got it. And that's when I was like, oh, yeah, Nas got it. It's hands down. Like, New York has voted. The DJ knows Jay is here and is playing the Ether record. And I remember Jay he wanted Dame to tell him not to play to turn his record off. And Dame tried to tell the dude to turn the record off. And the dude did not. The dude played the record again. And the club kept going up. And that's when I knew, honestly, I was like, he won. This is it. Like, New York has voted. And once New York voted, I knew the rest of the country, they didn't have a choice, because you Busta Rhymes, and this is the Mecca. And once the Mecca is kind of decided, they decided, and it was crazy. It was an ill day in hip hop for me as an outsider, you know what I'm saying? But kind of a bit of an insider, but I'm not from the East. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, if you would have told me I would have seen Nas and Jay-Z on the same day, I don't even see them most days. You know what I'm saying? I just don't see them all the time. So you would have told me I was going to see both of them dudes the same day that record dropped. I'm probably one of the only people that can say that. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy.